Hi, I'm gonna do a video on short video on Purim, which is a holiday that is documented in the Book of Esther, and it is the the probably the primary gift giving holiday, the holiday focused on gift giving in the Bible, and that is the gift giving holiday that the Israelites should, well, there's other gift giving holidays, Hanukkah and some others, but Purim is, um, specifically a gift giving feast, 2 day feast type holiday that Israelites, which if you look at my other videos, are documented in history and in the Bible as being the so-called Negro in America, the Native American and Hispanic people, North America, South America, the you know British, Caribbean islands, also scattered throughout the world, and pretty much every continent, every within every people, primarily you know. Brown tan people, but also could be some Caucasian looking people and Asian looking people, um, and again all over the world. So with the mixture of people, it's hard to identify exactly who are the Israelites 100%. Even you know some of the people I mentioned, they're meaning the Negro, uh, Indians, Native Americans, or the Hispanics. A good percentage of them aren't really Israelites if you trace their bloodline, but we're gonna know who the real Israelites are because they're gonna for one thing they're gonna have a connection with the Bible at some level. Right now, because they're rebellious, they might not want to follow what's in the book, but they will show some level of a connection to the book. I'm gonna go through a few scriptures here, and first, before doing that, I want to um, praise the Most High God Yahweh and His Son Yahweh Shai for the opportunity to make the video as well as the other videos I've made, and would like to thank him for the opportunity to um, serve him and make additional videos to edify people as well as hopefully with some of the other videos wake up some people out there. Been having more conversations with people on the topic. It's it's a tough conversation to have with people because people have just been indoctrinated into the what I believe um, mindset, and so the general thought process out there is that um, the Most High God, Yahweh is going to, with there being 9 billion people or approaching 9 billion people on the planet, that He's going to, on an individual basis, um, that He's going to bend His thought process or His laws and His bar of righteousness to what each individual wants to do. And that, I mean, that's totally stupid. So anyway, but Um, I'm going to get into a few scriptures here, and I'm just going to read the book of Esther. It's in the Old Testament is 9 chapters. Then there's some more chapters in the Apocrypha, um, which again it just takes up right where the other one left off, which again notates why the Apocrypha is why is it not in most of the Bibles, because you got a book that that book along with with a few other books that just kind of been chopped off in parts in the Apocrypha, parts not. Now there's a reason why it's was chopped off, and because it helps link who the Edomites are, and I'll touch on that briefly. But that's again part of the history that's been removed from the majority of the Bibles out there, and you have to put forth an extra effort to either get an authentic 1611 or to buy a separate book to go with the other book that you have, which again most people aren't do most people don't even know about the Apocrypha, which is not good. But okay, so let's see. So I want to read a scripture on the date. Well, first of all, um, what the holy day, excuse me, of Purim is. It is a celebration. Just to recap the book of Esther, this is during the time of the Persians, right? Or during the Persian kingdom, when the Israelites were in captivity, in the land of Persia, and there's a gentleman that and let's see, we'll read about him. Let's see, if you go to Esther chapter 3, let's see, his name is Haman, and after these things, the king Assyrius promote Haman, the son of Amminadab the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And so there's this guy named Haman, and again it calls him an Agagite. Now, if you do research on the Agagites in the Bible, they come from Agag, which, if you read, in Samuel's, these are basically Amalekites, right? Sons of Esau. And he took, I'm reading First Samuel. So the other scripture I read was Esther's chapter 3, verse 1, who kind of, first when they first start talking about Haman. Then this other scripture is First Samuel's chapter 15, verse 8. And he took, well, let's start at 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. Now, this is documenting the Israelites going in and, somewhat destroying the Amalekites, but they took Agag alive. They left him alive. They killed, pretty much everybody else. Now, but the order from Yahweh was for them to go in and kill everybody, destroy everything. But they left at least Agag alive, probably others. It doesn't say mention others, but they left Agag alive, and this upset God. Um, and this is when you know, Saul and God start. They're basically upset that they made Saul king, right? And this is where I think Saul, somewhat started, falling from grace, so to speak, right? Not from grace, but where he just started started going off, right? And which upset God. And then of course we know the story from there. God gets David to be king, right? And so this Ammon is again a Amalekite, okay? And then I'll do a separate video on it, but if you get further into it, the Amalekites, and it mentions Ammon. Let's go into that. Ammon and the Apocrypha, which again is why Apocrypha, which again is why in my belief why this part of the Book of Esther ended up in the Apocrypha is because it identifies who the Macedonians are. Okay, so we're going to in the Apocrypha, Book of Esther, chapter 16, verse 10. For Ammon, a Macedonian, the son of Aminadab, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received us. So in this chapter, it calls it calls Ammon. It calls Ammon a Macedonian, and so right there it links the Amalekites to the Macedonians, right? And then, of course, the Macedonians ended up being where Alexander came out of. So again, indicating that Alexander was an Amalekite, which are the Edomites, sons of Esau. And so in the Book of Esther, Haman, he puts together a plot to kill the Jews, right, and to totally wipe them out. And so, um, going through the story, Esther basically played a major part in bringing to light what Haman was doing, the wickedness he was doing, and the king, sent out messengers to the Jews to let them know what was going on, and basically put them in a position to get ready to defend themselves when people came in to destroy them. And so they ended up winning, several battles throughout Persia, as people came in to destroy them, and they were able to defeat these people. And so, by order of the king of Persia, they started celebrating every year this event. And so let's look at Book of Esther, Old Testament Book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 19. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month of Adar a day of gladness and feasting and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. So again, it talks about, you know, it talks about that being, you send portions to one another's, or gifts, and you have feasts and things like that. The 14th day of Adar, which Adar means the 12th month. And um, so anyway, but that, my point is, that's the gift giving holiday that should be celebrated. So we don't celebrate Christmas, which I'll end with one more scripture from Jeremiah chapter 10, just to touch on that. Um, let's see here, Jeremiah chapter 10. And if you do history on Christmas, Christmas was celebrated um, at least 2,000 years before, going back 2,000 years before the birth of Christ, or um, Yahweh Shai, who most people call Jesus. But let's see, we're going to read Jeremiah chapter 10. I thought I had it highlighted. Jeremiah chapter 10. It is Jeremiah, right? Jeremiah chapter 10. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is chapter 10. Okay. Thought I had it highlighted. So it says, we're going to start at verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, work of the hands of the workman with an axe. They deck it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and with a hammer, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They they must need be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Okay, so anyway, but what it's talking about here, if you read it and open your mind up, it's talking about a Christmas tree. And, um, that again goes back to, if you do research on it, goes back to Nimrod, who's talked about in Genesis chapter 9 or 10, I believe. And, who was the originator of, the concept of, one world order, one world rulership, underneath him, and the Tower of Babel, all that stuff. So, um, so it indicates there you're not supposed to follow Christmas, and that tree is the primary symbol tied to Christmas. Again, it goes back to Nimrod, and you can do research on that to confirm that. But um, it it's not the commemoration of the birth of the Son of God. It Christmas talks about a virgin birth, which that is not true if you understand the Bible. Um, um, the Son of God was born. The Bible indicates he was born on the Passover, which is why as Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem. They couldn't find a room at the inn because there are so many people in town because of the Passover. Okay, and um, and also, in Luke it indicates, on his birthday was the Passover, or when he became 12, it was during the time of the Passover. So, there's, there's a, you could read up on that, but, um, the Son of God was born through the seed of David. The Bible tells you that in several places. And, not through his mother Mary. Um, it's, through the actual lineage of his fathers, which is why they laid out his lineage in Matthew. Um, you know, Mary was not, in terms of what they call a virgin today. If you look at the word virgin, you know, there's multiple meanings in the Bible. One meaning is a pure woman that hadn't been touched. Another meaning is maritable age. And if you look at that passage, they're talking about maritable age. Um, so so again, again, it's another situation where things are being misinterpreted. That whole nativity scene of the Son of God being out in like a barn setting with animals and things. That's inaccurate. If you read in, well, it was Matthew's second chapter, it clearly tells you that he was in a house when when the wise men showed up, right after his birth to worship him. They entered the house. It tells you that in the second chapter. So, manger is mentioned, I believe, in Luke. And if you look at what a manger is, by definition, it talks about something that either is either a storage type item, or something that animals are fed out of. And it also talks about being like a lower level storage room when you do research on it, either in a ship, or it probably could even be a house. So either that manger is mentioning either like a crib like thing he was in, or maybe like a storage type room that he was in. Again, being born in an actual house. So, because anyway, but I won't get into that. But anyway, hope you know you found something in here that help you in your studies. Thank you.